It comes down to now is letting the dust settle, not being irrational, not feeding into the anti-gun rhetoric, making threats or being stupid about this. But the fight's not over.
In the federal government's haste to ban firearms, they have overlooked many people. It's not just the firearms owners, the folks that have inherited a Mini 14 from their fathers, or even the young girls like my colleague Sheila Gunn Reid's young daughter who owns a Mini 14. It's not just them that they're taking away guns from and private property from. It's also the retailers here in Canada. I'm at Shooting Edge, where I've been before, speaking with JR, the owner and operator here, where he has a story to tell about what's going on behind the counter at gun stores. They have huge inventories, massive inventories of guns that are not allowed to be sold in Canada anymore, and they can't actually send them back to the manufacturers. The manufacturers don't want to take them back. The manufacturers have made their money, and they've actually designed many of these guns to be sold specifically in Canada. If you've ever read through the Firearms Act, you'll know that you have to twist yourself into a pretzel to sell firearms here in Canada. Barrel lengths have to be very specific, lengths of the guns, bore widths. It takes a lot to sell a gun in Canada, and it takes a lot to manufacture those guns, and they can't really be sold to any other markets. JR, the owner and operator here at the Shooting Edge, has more on the story.
It's not just AR-15s. It's AR-15s, but then they got the 20 millimeters, so all the guys who have their 50 cals, but also anything over 10,000 joules. And so that includes everything from the Weatherby 470, the 308 or the 375 Shy-Tac, the 408 Shy-Tac. So there's a lot of things that have been banned that people aren't even talking about yet. Plus 12 gauge shotguns. If they're overboard, they're over 20 millimeters. So they're banned now as well. So there's a lot of things. So we have to reach out to a lot of manufacturers to find out what the bore dimensions of their shotgun barrels are.
In terms of the size of product inventory, how much of it can't you sell anymore?
We've probably had to pull close to $300,000 in retail value of inventory off our shelves and in the back, and quarantine it from making sure it doesn't sell.
And are you able to send that back to the manufacturer, or?
No, the other stuff too is we've bought from manufacturers in other countries, so it can't go anywhere. It'll be more costly to send it back, and a lot of them they don't want it back. Like, it's left them, they've been paid, and it's been made specifically for Canada with barrel lengths and other features that they have no other market for it. So we're stuck with it.
Have you spoken with anyone with the government, with public safety? Do you expect any sort of compensation for this totally random government act?
Well, nobody from the federal government's talking. I mean, the provinces, because we have stores in Calgary and in Toronto, and the provinces are mad as hell as well. So we've been talking with them. So we're trying to figure out what our game plan is. It comes down to now is letting the dust settle, not being irrational, not feeding into the anti-gun rhetoric, making threats or being stupid about this. But the fight's not over.
Jason Kenney says he's looking to fire the federally appointed CFO and replace it with his own. Do you have any hopes that will actually change anything substantial?
I think it will in the long run. I think we need, we're actually fairly lucky in Alberta. The CFO and the CFOs we've had in the last few years have not been anti-Alberta. I think the CFO's office in Ontario is much more draconian than Alberta. But I still think that there's work that could be done if it was Alberta CFO with Alberta directive in an Alberta environment.
The Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, has announced that they're looking into firing Justin Trudeau's Chief Firearms Officer. If you don't know how Chief Firearms Officers work, there's one for every province, and most of them are appointed by the federal government. But the provinces actually have the right to appoint them themselves. For some reason, we just haven't taken that liberty. Jason Kenney is looking at doing that, and in a recent announcement, he says that he's going to be looking at appointing a Chief Firearms Officer. Obviously, you just saw JR says that might actually help Albertans in the long run, but we certainly eagerly await to hear from Jason Kenney, to hear what else he's going to be doing to strengthen private property rights and the rights of legal, law-abiding gun owners here in Alberta, at the very least. We hope that Scott Moe and other premiers across Canada will be taking similar measures to protect their gun owners. Last week, we reported that the federal government banned a website, and we weren't completely incorrect in that. Their terminology that they used in the hastily crafted executive order that they didn't actually run by Parliament, they didn't debate at all. The federal government banned something on a line called AR15.com. And on top of that, right next to that, it said ARFCOM. Now, AR15.com is a website, and it did appear that they banned the website. ARFCOM is actually a nickname for that website. Now, the issue can be traced to the second word in this line item here, ARFCOM, there, which is what led us to believe that they mistakenly banned the website, but it looks like they just sort of added a little bit extra detail to that line. Semantics aside, the federal government has severely botched this file. From the millions of dollars that small-time firearms retailers are going to have to swallow, families are going to have to swallow that cost because Justin Trudeau decided that he was scared of a ranch-style Mini 14 rifle, a gun that young girls use on farms to shoot coyotes. To the fact that Justin Trudeau banned some guns and didn't ban others. Now, I'm not advocating that he should have banned more guns. It just proves the point that there was no rhyme or reason to the guns that he did choose to ban. For example, you can still purchase the Tavor, an Israeli weapon that's used in militaries from Azerbaijan to Chile. It is by definition a military-style rifle, but Justin Trudeau didn't ban it, but he did ban the Mini 14 that you inherited from your father. There was no rhyme or reason to this, and it needs to be put to a stop. Jason Kenney is going to be appointing a new CFO, but how much is that really going to do? We need to send a message to the feds that they need to get their hands off our guns. Obviously, we bought the URL handsoffourguns.ca. If you go there and sign the petition, I will be sending that to Justin Trudeau to let him know that someone as incompetent as him should not be deciding what we can be using and what we can own for private property. For Rebel News at the Shooting Edge in Calgary, I'm Keean Bexte. Go to handsoffourguns.ca, sign the petition, and I'll send it to Justin Trudeau. We'll send him a message to let him know that we're not going to take it.